Thanks for tuning in to ELCAT News Update. I'm Rebecca Green. On this edition, we'll focus solely on the latest Town Council meeting that was held on July 26th. A lengthy agenda included interviews for the town's first ever interim town manager. Last week, we talked with President Kevin Manley, who said that both candidates are also interested in the full-time position. The two candidates are David Marciello and Denise Menard. Each interview was made up of 9 questions. Let's take a look. First up, David Marciello, an attorney who previously served as Rehoboth's interim town administrator.
I have 20 years experience as a municipal employment and land use attorney, 10 years experience as a public administrator handling every facet of the workings of town government and running a town. I hold a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in public administration, and a Juris Doctorate. My unique skill set of working on both sides of the theory and practice gives me perspective to get to your new government up and running seamlessly.
The first question that we sent and allowed you to prepare is, if selected, what would be your plan for the first 30 days? So if you could just touch on that for us.
I presented you with some bullet points, 5 pages broken down in bullet points, and I'll just go off of them. First, I gave a very brief preamble. East Longmeadow is at the genesis of a new form of government. Not only is a town manager a new hire, but the whole form of government is new as well. 4 months to get set up and running will take expertise, dedication, and commitment. I've chosen this challenge because of the unique attributes of this endeavor. My entire professional career has been preparation for such an opportunity. If you look at the first page of bullet points, it's very important to realize that looking at the books doesn't tell you everything. And I've already looked at your books. I've already met with many of your people that work with the books, and there's reasons behind everything. That's what you need to get to know. So the first thing to know in order to get a seamless transition, you need to know why things are what they are and what are the major issues facing the town. I need to know what the council is being kept up at night about. Prioritize those issues. In short, before I go forward, the short answer is the first 30 days is going to be spent structuring everything so we can run forward, and in 4 months' time have this business running seamlessly. Now, if you look at the next page, you need to focus on getting the systems established and running efficiently. I've already gotten started on this even before being asked this question. Before I spoke to Councilman Ford, I had already met with the town accountant. I had already met with staff and some department heads. I've already obtained the auditor's management letter. It's right here. I've already gone through it, fine-tooth comb. It needs to be updated. I've already familiarized myself with the annual town report. It's right there. I've already familiarized myself with the capital plan and with the charter. I noticed immediately that you didn't have a master plan, and that's something long-range wise you need to have a master plan. You have a fantastic capital plan. I have some ideas as to how to massage it a little bit, but it's a very good start. But you don't have a master plan, and you ought to. It's something that will help you prepare going forward and make your town the way you want your town to be.
Next up, Denise Menard from East Windsor, Connecticut. Menard served as her town's first selectman. She has also served on many other boards and committees throughout her years in municipal town government.
I was a paralegal for 15 years. Well, in your heart, I'm still a paralegal. And I have a degree in business as well. So it really is a good combination. I have a sensitivity to legal matters and common sense approach to a lot of things. Don't mind tackling hard decisions if we have to.
Giving you that one question to take home, and so the first question, if selected, what would be your plan for the first 30 days?
So I'm a preparer, and I did prepare. And actually, after I submitted my original letters and resume, I went to your clerk of the council and asked him for an annual report and all of that stuff. And you'll see it sort of ties into, I didn't realize at the time that that's my style anyway. But I have a letter addressed to you all. It says, Councilman Ford asked that I prepare to discuss what my plans would be for the first 30 days on the job if I'm chosen as the interim town manager. My approach to any new position is to read and to listen. The interim town manager needs to be sensitive that the town's employees have been through a time of uncertainty that will continue until the permanent town manager is on board. Keeping that in mind, along with provisions in your recently adopted charter, the interim will need to address immediate needs for keeping the business of the town moving forward, getting to know the council, the town employees, and the community in general. That will require a clear understanding of the town council's priorities and getting familiar with the budget and the governing documents that you have. Pending legal matters, including litigation, personnel, and contracts that may be expiring through the end of the year. The town's properties, because I saw in the charter that this person is responsible for some of that kind of, having to do with the town's properties. So I've been introduced to the town hall, and I've been introduced to the library because we got here a little early, and I've checked out this building, so I'm on a roll. Economic development that needs anything from the manager or the town staff, capital projects for this fiscal year, and vacancies that need to be filled. It will certainly be a busy 30 days. The first 30 days will be critical to setting the tone for the time the interim town manager is in place. This will require meeting lots of new people, learning their priorities, their needs and expectations, while getting to know what the staff is used to handling. The interim also needs to provide a comfortable business climate for employees, residents, and business people. My management style is one that's inclusive, meaning I usually have good ideas on how to get things done, but will always work with the managers and/or council on coming to the best course of action. Having worked with a board of selectmen of 5 that met every 2 weeks, I provided them with background on an issue, along with usually my recommendation on how to move forward on it. I held monthly senior staff meetings so that all managers could share what they had going on throughout the town, and I met with managers individually, as there were often matters that were either personnel or just not somebody else's business, projects that were going on, that kind of thing. I let the managers manage, but I was always available if they needed, and asked that they keep me informed of what was going on. I expect those kinds of conversations would start immediately so that you can start implementing your priorities with the town's day-to-day business being kept moving on. I've already picked up all the information I told you about. So in a sense, I've already begun some of the reading. East Long Meadow looks like a great town. I would be honored to keep it headed in the right direction.
The council immediately went into deliberation on who they think would be the best fit for the town.
One candidate it appears very well understood it's an interim position, interviewed for an interim position. And the other candidate, I felt like at any rate, was interviewing for a permanent position, and outlined a 30-day plan that's more reflective of a permanent position. I think one candidate was very sensitive, or appeared to be very sensitive to what the town's gone through, both the employees and the residents. The other, I don't think ever mentioned it. I don't think it really was part of the conversation. Both are very well qualified. Both have a tremendous amount of experience in municipal government. But I'll just come out and say it. I think, given those 2 interviews, I think right now I'm favoring Mrs. Menard.
I'll be honest with you, I'll just go on to your, one of the most important things I think for us as representatives of the voting public is her sensitivity to not only the citizens of the town, what they've gone through, sensitivity to the change that we're currently going through, knowing that, we're all trying to figure it out and head in one direction. That sensitivity to employees, and sort of, we have a lot of employees that are, not really sure what direction they're going, or their position's gonna be here tomorrow, or they're not gonna be here tomorrow. Just mannerism and personality, I think, is a fit for here is important, even though it's interim, but the fit, I think, is just as important as qualifications. And I have to say that I have to go with Denise on that, because I just think fit-wise, it's what we need. Somebody that can manage, organize, but be sensitive to employees, citizens. I mean, that's just kind of like the whole thing we're looking to have.
And there is very much an, they're two very different candidates, and there is an X's and O's component to what we do here, and how they're going to execute, on certain aspects of the daily functions of the job are important. But as a leader, you delegate most of those responsibilities, and you do surround yourself and build a consensus, build a team environment, and work towards a common goal. One of the things that impressed me when I first spoke with her is that I was asking her questions about her successes, and she was giving me examples of other people's successes and she reiterated some of those tonight. It's a unique leader that does not take credit for other people's successes.
My thinking is, as far as if I were going to pick one for the permanent, I would probably pick David for permanent at this point of the two. But for interim, I would have to agree with all you guys in this, because I liked what he was bringing to the table as far as putting a plan together and actually taking the initiative of looking into best practices for the town and so forth. And also the education background, nothing to do with him being an attorney, it has to do with more of the business, in terms of the governmental background. His education, I think, was one of the requirements that we were looking for in this. I like the fact that for him that he has a good, strong background in Massachusetts, being familiar, because being able to come up with this series of ideas of raising money and having the own initiative was extremely beneficial, because one of the features that I said during the campaign is I would like to have a candidate that would find strategies and ways to help justify his or her salary, as because we are going to be spending the money. I mean, to me, the couple choices that I have is, I agree with all you guys. I think Denise, if we're going to pick between the two, would be a good choice. The other one that I still have to leave in the back of my mind was the fact of continuing to go from acting to permanent, as to say is if our current acting is willing to stay on through that position, to me that would be the 1A vote. But if that's not what we're discussing is between the two for the interim position, I would have to agree with Denise, with all you, because I think our town at the end of the day has gone through a lot of changes, a lot of bosses, a lot of faces of East Long Meadow as far as going to the town hall. And adding one more face is, as far as department heads and understanding who are we dealing with, is whether that is beneficial. I guess we'll have to let history decide that.
Denise came in here and interviewed for an interim position. If she came in and re-interviewed for the full-time manager position, you might find her interview totally different. So,
That's entirely true.
right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
So I think she did a great job. She stayed on point with the interview for the position that's being offered today.
Make a motion that we offer the position to Denise Menard, and that the council authorize the council president and Joe to enter into contract negotiations or specifics in terms of benefits and compensation, to come back for final approval for the council once that's settled.
So moved. Second.
Let's move in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
The meeting covered other items such as hiring status updates, announcements, committees, and more. Going in order, Acting Town Manager Robert Parent provides the council with a hiring update. The library will need to restart the search process for a library director.
When we met at the last meeting, the council granted myself authorization to offer a position to either the number 1 or number 2 ranked candidate by the library board of trustees. Unfortunately, I reached out to the number 1 candidate and found that number 1 candidate, after he had a chance to really seriously consider the position, consider the impact that it might have on him and his family. I did find out that, unfortunately, the number 2 candidate that had been ranked by the Board of Library Trustees some time ago had accepted a position. So at this point, we are not lacking, we lack a strong candidate, and we will have to go back out to a search process again for a library director.
Moving ahead to other agenda items, parent explains the water restriction that recently went into effect.
We put these restrictions in place. I consulted with members of the Board of Public Works over the weekend and on Monday morning. The trend that we've seen with the very high temperatures and very dry conditions means that our water usage has been very high and somewhat uniquely has stayed very high over an extended period of time. We're typically used to seeing 2 or 3 or 4 days where we get our peak usage, and our peak usage right now is about 4 to 5 times what it is in December, just to give you a sense of the amount of water that's being. Good thing is it's being sold, there's revenue coming into the town, but the bad news is we have to get it to the customers in town. What tends to happen typically is this time of year, all the water that the town consumes gets pumped at least once. Water comes from Springfield Water and Sewer Commission. It gets pumped into town at the Harkness pumping station during peak conditions. And then about 2/3 of the town is served by a boosted system at the Chestnut Street pumping station that lifts the water up to our water storage tanks. When we're in a peak condition, those pumping facilities are at their peak capacity. The storage tanks are being utilized. They're intended to buffer that demand. And what happens is typically they tend to fill and drain. The trend that we're seeing over the last 10 days is they fill and drain, but they don't quite fill all the way back up, and the level gets a little bit lower and a little bit lower and a little bit lower every night. So we were seeing on Monday morning tank levels that were as low as they had been just after the Blueberry Acres fire. And the difference there was it was a major fire event. We used a lot of water very quickly, but we had the ability to replenish that water fairly quickly because we weren't during a peak condition. In this case, we were at that same level in our water storage tanks, and we were using all the water we could deliver. So we made the decision to put out a voluntary water use restriction. The good news is I believe it's being effective. I mean, our tank levels have risen already over the last 24 hours.
Wow.
You know, they still have a ways to go, but they're heading in the right direction. We were trending in the wrong direction. That would have put us in a not very good condition. We're now trending in a good direction. So I'm optimistic that we get through this week. We're looking at potentially some rain finally happening, maybe this weekend, some temperatures coming down. Usage trends will maybe drop off a little bit. We may be in a position where we can remove that voluntary restriction, but we felt it was very necessary to put it in place and put it in place when we were to make certain that we could turn that trend around.
Lastly, the council discusses a bylaw review committee. Prior to the meeting, ELCAT talked with Town Council President Kevin Manley to learn exactly what this committee is and why we need it.
Basically what it is by August 1st of this year, we had to have a bylaw review committee to go in and review all the existing bylaws for the town and sort of how does the charter impact those bylaws and what changes need to be made. And they have 12 months from the establishment of the charter, which is kind of tricky because it's really only 10 months, because now that was April, now we're in July, so it's going to be 9 or 10 months. It's going to be a lot of work for that committee to undertake because they have to go basically line by line in every bylaw for the town, general bylaws, and look at it and say, how does the charter impact this? There's a lot of members of the Charter Commission were interested. The charter actually calls for at least 2 of the Charter Commission members.
So I talked to numerous people around the town, and I have put a list together, and it was also posted, and a couple additional names have come in since then. And I guess we need to committee it and vote on it so that we have this committee in place by August 1 to meet the deadline.
So I'll make a motion that the bylaw review committee be composed of the following individuals: Larry Levine, Marilyn Richards, George Kingston, Tom O'Connor, Ray Miller, Pete Levesque, Bill Fonseca, and Anthony Danny as the alternate.
So moved. Second.
To watch the entire meeting, head over to our YouTube channel at ELCAT 01028. Thanks for tuning in to the Town Council Recap edition of ELCAT News Update. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Green. Thanks for watching.